Yeah, we can talk about that.
All right, ready? Am I in?
With Todd and Rob. Oh, yeah.
Well, something happened to the intro. Let's try that again.
Todd and Rob in the afternoon.
Afternoon delight. With Todd and Rob. Oh, yeah.
There we go. Hey, Rob, welcome to the new media show. Welcome back.
Well, it's great to be back, and it looks like you're not using your boom mic.
Oh, yeah. No, I am not. I am on I ordered same boom mic that I have in Michigan. So,
Oh, it's an uplift one, huh?
yeah.
It comes from below. Okay.
And from the last show, everything is, I think I talked about in the last show, everything's running the Mac Mini. I'm crossing my fingers for after a month or so, everything is finally dialed in. But hey, I've been on vacation the last 3 days. And to be honest with you, you can hear it in my voice. A little too much party.
Oh, okay. That's what it is.
Yeah, so I might be reaching over here and hitting the mic button as I'm clearing my throat. So hopefully I remember to do that. So hey, I've be honest with you, I really took vacation. I didn't check the email once and Slack once, and so I got a lot of catching up to do Thursday when I'm back in the office. But podcasting space continues to rock and roll, and I guess the one thing that I had saw, we had gotten something on X from a listener of the show, and they had said to take a look at a deep fake. And it's interesting. This was a post from Rich Roll Podcast, and he posted a Substack article talking about how his voice was used in an absolute deep fake video and audio to say things he would never say.
Yeah.
And I guess it's caused quite the uproar, and there's been a few people that have commented on it, um, and he just he found that Facebook and YouTube and other entities were not at all prepared, not at all responsive, didn't take the content down. And I continue to see some of this type of stuff that happens with Facebook too. I had some personal stuff, of late where they never respond. Their safety team never responded. So I just wonder if this thing has gotten to the point where the Autobots are now, deciding what they want to respond to, and we're going to have to protect ourselves at all cost going forward. Literally, because we have to.
Well, I think these tools have been around for a while now, so I'm not, and I've been seeing them being used quite often, basically around big name celebrities and people that are very, very famous. So I've seen this a lot over probably the last 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that it has entered the podcasting space, if that's what we're talking about here, or is it just
It's a
just a
podcast.
video, like a short video that was made?
Yeah, it was a couple of different things, but the main thing is you can see this person's mouth moving, and
Sure.
it looks like him. And you probably I didn't actually watch. He just described, and I
Well,
think
this
this
is
is
the
going to be
capability of the
oh,
well, the notebook LM is
Yeah.
kind of like that, but I don't know that you can use
No,
another person's likeness.
no, but they used his voice and used his likeness and were able, it looked like him, it sounded like him, and he had no recourse. So and the main thing was, he acknowledged that this is going to happen, but the bigger challenge is how do you, if Facebook and YouTube are not being responsive to these types of activities, then how do you protect yourself when you need something taken down that is not true? You know, so, hey, Rob, I can't hear you. Oh, you went away. I don't hear you at all. Something happened. Yeah, I don't hear you. Let me check. You hear me? I don't know what's going on. I don't hear you at all. I don't know what to do. I don't hear you at all. Yeah. All right, I'll try rebooting the Roadcaster, but I don't hear you at all. Give me a second. Let's see what happens. Jesus.
I think we're still live.
Okay, yeah, we're live. Now I can hear you. Okay. Wow. Well, that sucked. All right, now that I can hear you again, I guess I have a heavy edit today. That blows. It's just like the Roadcaster just dropped you and they went silent.
Mm. Also, I can see your cursor on the live stream, and in menus that you pop up are actually going out live.
What?
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at the live stream and I don't see.
Yes. Yeah, so I could just see a menu that popped up on the screen just
Oh,
a
you
second ago.
just saw one a second ago?
Yeah, and then also the mouse is on the screen too. So yeah, I saw it in last week's episode too.
All right, that's weird. Okay. Very, very odd.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well,
Yeah.
I'm looking at the live stream. I don't see it at all.
Yeah, I mean it was just there, but it's gone now.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah, well, it was. Oh, yeah. When I was doing the menu changes, it probably would have showed up. Okay.
yeah.
All right. So sorry, everyone. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, this tech now, it just lets it easy. It's easy to do a date fake. And how do you protect yourself?
Yeah, I don't know that you can. That's the honest truth.
But why did he have so much trouble getting a response from Google and others. That's the next piece.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a Pandora's box, right? It's like, well, do we want AI content to be taken down? Do we want, I mean, how much kind of blowback do we want to accept on AI content? So I guess at the end of the day, when it's unauthorized reproduction of another human being that is um, fraudulently portraying something that person that's being portrayed is saying that never said or never intended to put into an AI, that's a different matter. So
Yeah.
I don't know how you protect against that. There's going to have to be almost like in the early years, like a DRM or something like that, where your likeness and your voice is locked to some sort of a you know like encrypted message in the content that. But I'm not really sure how we would technically do that at this point.
Yeah, I at this point, I'm not sure that you totally can.
Yeah, it's
So,
not. I don't think it can be stopped at this point.
well, I'm not sure it's not going to be stopped, but I sure would like to see, when an individual is being disparaged and
Yeah. No, I think that's the line clearly this cross. So you
yeah,
should be able to activate, you know, the safety kind of systems that Facebook and these platforms have
yeah,
to, I mean, it's unauthorized, unapproved deepfakes,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's a clear portrayal here. The problem is what the viewers see up to the point where it gets kind of blocked. That's where the danger is, if it's not blocked before it's published, then it's kind of,
Oh, he
you
says
know,
he's been dealing with the damage all week,
oh, yes.
and getting emails from people that canceling, like, I can't believe you said this, and oh my God, and,
Oh, yeah. People are hypersensitive to
right.
saying something that isn't politically correct,
And, their reaction is, visceral.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it can turn to violence and threats and all sorts of stuff
Yeah.
these days.
Yeah. So, bad juju. Um, the only other topic I had that I was kind of, I think we know this, but a report came out that women podcast listenership has tripled in 10 years, according to the Women Audio Report. Women in Podcasts, released by Addison Research and Sirius XM. 45% of all women in the U.S., 60 million, are monthly listeners, and 52% consume podcasts in some form, whether listening or watching. I have no doubt that it's tripled. I would be surprised if it's not quadrupled.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but again, if we think back 10 years ago, we saw a major, major, major influx of women. I would say maybe 12 or 13 years ago now, not necessarily 10, and I think the majority of new content being created, I think we're still seeing more women creators come on board than we are men, as far as percentage wise.
Yeah.
So,
I see whole teams in the podcasting space that are pretty much all women.
yeah,
Um, if you look at the percentage of staffers that work for a particular platform now, I would say that it's dominant on the female side now.
yeah,
So, I mean, I just look at a platform like a Spreaker or any of these platforms, and most of the people that work there are women.
yeah.
So, yeah.
But as far as
So,
actual creators go, and at least on my side, the number of shows being produced are, if it has to be 50-50. And
oh,
it's just general observation on my part.
yeah.
So,
Though I still hear women say that it's not enough, right? They're still, men are still kind of still in their perception still dominating the podcasting space. So, so anyway, it's just one of those things that it's been evolving for many years.
Yeah.
And I've been saying for years that I thought eventually women were going to pretty much take over the medium. So, and it's definitely heading that direction. So,
Well, I've never really done an analysis of the top 200 chart.
yeah,
So I think it's, just nuts to bolts is I think you have, maybe that's a bad analogy, but I think you have um,
yeah, maybe Todd.
yeah, yeah, apples and oranges. Um, God, too early. Sorry.
That's okay.
It's um, you definitely have this high, talk about the number of listeners. So the number of women listeners are there and a huge numbers. So the question is, what are the ladies listening to? Um, and what are the men listening to? I would, per, uh, there's a couple of shows that I listen to that have women in it, but not solo lady shows. I've been listening to shows that have women as co-host,
Yeah.
or they're the host and a co-host, one of those types of deals.
Yeah. It goes the whole spectrum.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think I listened to any solo women shows. Um, I have to search around. I should search around and find some and subscribe, on a regular basis. But I would bet because true crime is so high in their genre of listening, I would think, and a lot of those shows are created by men. So I
Mm.
would probably, just on a hypothetical basis, assume that a lot of ladies are listening to a lot of men's shows as well. I might be
Oh, sure.
wrong. Just
No, I
because
think,
of true
yeah.
fan. I mean, not true fans, because of uh, true crime. Yeah,
Yeah. No,
putting a little weight on the scale.
yeah, I can definitely see that. Yeah. I've been kind of scrolling through X, kind of looking under the search term deep fakes. And there's all sorts of commentary in here that's going on about it. One has a woman giving some commentary on it, saying that the House and the Senate in the U.S. here has put forth a bill that says the No Fakes Act was reintroduced by a bipartisan group of members in the House and Senate. The No Fakes Act would protect us all from deep fakes and voice clones by creating a personal property right for everyone to their own voice and likeness. I don't know if that stops it, but it's there has to be some technology to authorize, or kind of like music, right? So it's almost got to have the same kind of like audio authorization.
Well, I think the logos are going to have a hard time detecting when someone's a deep fake, unless there's something embedded in the creation of the content.
Yeah. No, I
Uh,
think it's I
So,
think it's in uncharted territory here.
lacking that, we will have to deal with, hoping that they react to takedown requests.
Yeah. And
So,
then they're going to have to authorize that the person that's demanding the takedown be be the right person.
yeah,
you know, so you have all sorts of authentication issues that are put before us here.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I see in your notes that you sent over that you have been playing around with some single use AI tools.
Yeah, I think this whole reality that we all been living in the podcasting space, where we've seen these, these um, new companies being birthed that are trying to utilize AI technology to solve a particular problem, right? That we've oftentimes said on this show are really kind of maybe a feature, not a product, right? And I think to some degree, this new platform that was introduced here at the end of March. I don't know if you have seen it or played around with it, Todd, but it's called Podcast Prepper.
Yeah, it kind of
So
copies everything we do with our AI tool.
yeah, so you have these, and I was using this platform as an example of what I'm talking
Yeah,
about, where this, I think, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit by saying this, but I think that the future is integration of all of these potential time savers into one platform. So you create a holistic publishing process. But in the period that we're in right now, this is the period of, and I think we saw this in the 2000s and time frame too, where individual startups would start up with an interesting idea, right? Where this particular one, this podcast prepper, is really all about doing guest preparation
right.
to supposedly reduce the effort that it takes to prepare for an interview by 95 plus percent, Todd. Um, so, when you have to ask the question, well, they're going about it in a pretty systematic way, and they're being clear about what they're doing with the product. But I think as the podcast industry starts getting pulled into AI, I think what we're being pulled into is more work, not efficiencies. And now, granted, this might offer some efficiencies, but then again, you're going to have to go through and check everything in this
Oh,
thing.
yeah, for sure.
So you're going to have to do a lot of work around this. It's not as simple as they say it is here, where you just give it the guest name and it does everything for you and spits out
Yep.
questions and the bio and all this stuff. I don't think it's as simple as that. That's
The,
the problem.
the way we approached it was guest name, and you have to upload the bio, you have to link to their LinkedIn
Yeah.
and any other supporting links. And then we don't create a background about the guest. We create what is the topic of the show going to be about? What are you going to be discussing with this guest? And then give me 10 suggested questions. Give me 10 suggested topics. And then you can add your own. I'm at this point, I'm not going to bring back what the education is. I'm not going to talk about their awards and honors. Uh, I just think that leaves too much to. You need to do a little bit of work on your side, largely because, like you said, this data is not 100% accurate that comes out. So questions and topics, that's what we restricted our tool to, because I don't want to give I don't want to risk having hallucinations in the outputs, because that could really spell trouble if you took that just by pure value.
Yeah, and I'm a pro AI kind of a person and how I look at these things to play around with the tools, but I also think that there's potentially, and this is one of those areas where you're really playing around with with the content, right? And
Yeah.
you're really um, giving AI a lot of license
Yep.
in controlling what your content is. And if you take it, with what it gives you, and you only do that, then you're kind of shifting your mental abilities as a human over to the AI to do all the thinking for you and all the learning for you. And I think that's a dangerous place for us to go. Though I think, this can be helpful, but I just wonder if it should be viewed as something that's not something that you should solely use, right? Based on its exact recommendations. Maybe you can learn from it
Yeah.
to maybe do a better conversation in your show, and take it as a suggestion, but don't take it as the only thing that you can think about.
You know, it's it's just
So,
like the outputs that we put out. We put a warning on and said, "Hey, this is AI generated. You need to validate these
right.
outputs." You know, and even in my show summary, this show specifically, I have to be real careful because we cover such a range of stuff usually
Yeah.
during the show that it will often either get something you said wrong or something I said wrong. I have to QA that summary. It does
Right.
a pretty good job on my tech show, but this show specifically, because we go for 90 minutes, it
Yeah.
tries to cross correlate
It's a
stuff.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot, and I know that there was a little bit of a controversy that came out this week about the Descript tool, um, on its audio transcription, leaving big chunks of the transcription out from the audio.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, I guess that there was a bug in there, and I wasn't aware of this, and I used the tool as well. I don't use the transcript to put out as content, but I use it as a foundation to maybe come up with a summary or that kind of stuff and do some editing.
But don't you
Um,
edit by text? Isn't most
yeah,
of the text
yeah,
missing?
yeah, you do, but I've never noticed that.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't actually go in and edit every word in the text when
Oh,
I do the editing.
yeah.
So it's it's usually, there's a layer of editing that I do in the Descript tool, but it's very kind of superficial. It's like pulling out some ums and ahs and things like that. And then maybe some gaps between words and things like that. But that's about the only editing that I do in Descript. And then I export it, and then I actually will go through and hand edit it in a wave editor. So that's where I actually pick up all of the edits. So there's a multi-level. So what my goal is with the Descript tool is to cut down on the editing that I have to do, not eliminate it entirely. So I just didn't realize that it just was leaving out big chunks of text in the transcription.
Yeah, that's not a good bug, and hopefully they get that fixed.
Yeah.
Hey, did
But
you
I've actually never noticed it before myself. So
Oh,
yeah. But anyway,
did you see Brian Barletta's comment about them not they're basically telling their partners that they
yeah,
don't
I have it in the show notes at the bottom of the
Oh,
of the show notes list. So
oh, so
that is
that is a
yeah.
topic.
Yeah, it's a topic. It's not specifically the Brian Burletta commenting, because his commenting has been pretty much the same thing that we've said over the
Yeah,
last
yeah,
couple
yeah.
weeks. So there's really nothing new that
But it's
Brian said
nice that
that we
they
haven't said multiple
but
times.
it's nice that he's come out and said they're recommending their partners don't do this.
Yeah, and that's what we've been saying for like
Yeah,
the last 3 weeks.
yeah. Or
But
actually longer.
yeah,
Yeah.
but what what I have in the show notes is really about Spotify's response, which could draw a little bit more clarity, I think, on what they're doing.
Yeah.
Um, but in the article, and I ran their article through AI as well, and it extracted the key points out of it, and I think the big one that I took away, which I thought was interesting, is video on. This is from Spotify. This is off a Spotify website. Video on Spotify and is automatically converted to audio for RSS based distribution elsewhere.
Mhm.
Now,
Elsewhere.
this is an aspect that we hadn't talked about before, which is if you upload your video to Spotify, the audio from it will be used in the RSS feed that's being distributed outside of
Right.
Spotify to like
Right.
Apple Podcasts as well.
Which is even worse.
Right. So it's actually replacing the RSS audio
Yeah,
as well as putting it out as a. Now, granted, this is probably only for people that are only hosting on Spotify for creators, right? So
unless
this
they
wouldn't be the
unless
case.
yeah, for source audio from Blueberry would be safe.
Well, it's still going to be overwritten, right? It's
On
just not
Spotify. Yeah.
right. It's still going to be overwritten,
Yeah.
but this is for they're taking the audio from the video and
Yeah.
putting it in RSS feeds that's going to be published on the creator's behalf. Now,
So they've doubled
maybe
down and made it worse.
well, I mean, yes and no. I I tend to want to create separate audio from the video. And what Spotify is doing here is assuming that the audio from the video is what you
Yeah.
want to put out as an RSS based
Yeah.
audio
Yeah.
version, which that also is a whole nother level of problem in my view. Now, not everyone probably sees it the same way I do. I'm sure there's creators out there that are just putting out the audio that's the same
Mm.
thing as in the video, right?
Hmm.
That's kind of what we do with this show.
Yeah.
So, it's not a huge thing, but I just didn't realize that they were doing that with RSS based external distribution. Right.
But one thing's for sure, it completely destroys any programmatic advertising opportunity. Well, again, you get what you get with Spotify. And if you're hosted with Blueberry or Libsyn or
Well,
Podbean, again, I think Barletta's and our recommendation is don't put video over the top of your audio.
well, don't publish video into your same show account that you have in there for your audio show via RSS, I think
Yeah,
is
that's correct.
what this is. And that's different than what I was just talking about. So, because Spotify, I guess, has their own ad insertion technology and targeting.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what it talks about in the article. It also says that Spotify allows megaphone publishers to monetize video content through direct sales and through the Spotify partner program. So, I mean, but that's not anything new.
No.
It says direct sales options include baked in host read ads and dynamically inserted ads. So they do have, but that's been inside the Megaphone platform
Right. Right.
for a long time. But I
And
don't know that it had it for
and
video.
generally to be part of the partner program,
Right.
that doesn't mean if you host on Megaphone, you're part of the partner program. That's something that's got to be clarified because there's a small list of networks that are in the partner program.
Well, I don't know that that's entirely true, Todd. I think if you have a certain plan inside of the Megaphone platform and you're a publisher, I think that gives you access to the advertising tools.
Not to the partner
So
program. You have to be approved. There is a list of shows that are part of
no,
the
I think
partner
that
program.
well, yeah, that's true from a Spotify ad sold publishing. I'm talking about if you're a publisher and you're selling your own ads into your own content, you can utilize their
Oh, yeah,
tools
yeah,
to
yeah.
publish ads into your own show.
Yeah, that's different than the partner program, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it is.
All
I
right.
think what you're
Yeah.
talking about is those that are just uploading their content, their video content, just through the Spotify for Creators platform.
No, Spotify has a specific platform for people that are on Spotify for podcasts. If you,
Okay, but that's different than Megaphone, is all I'm saying.
I know, but
Yeah.
again, the Spotify partner program, not every
Mhm.
podcaster that's on Spotify is part of the
Right.
Spotify partner program. Usually, you have to be part of a network that's one of
Right.
their partners,
Or
Spotify
Spotify
partner,
to do the ad sales
to
for you.
do the ad sales for you, right? And then the
Yeah.
Megaphone piece is separate. They've got their own tools and
Yeah.
services, right?
So you have to qualify to, and it's just like
Yeah,
what YouTube is doing, right?
yeah,
Now, granted, what YouTube is doing, and probably Spotify is doing this too, is that they're still going to run ads against your show.
well, they are, yeah,
I mean, if you're in the partner program, you get a revenue share. But if you're not in the partner program,
right.
you're
You get
probably
nothing.
not getting any kind of revenue share, but
Yeah,
they're still running ads
yeah.
against your show.
You get nothing. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And I don't
So,
think they run it mid roll. I think they run it in
yeah.
between.
Yeah, like a pre-roll or
Yeah,
post-roll,
yeah.
probably. Yeah.
So
But I'm trying to think what YouTube does. I think YouTube runs mid rolls on content that's
Oh
not
yeah.
part of their
Oh
monetization
yeah. If
program.
you're not paying for it, they'll cut you midstream, and they figure out where to insert an ad. And every 10 minutes, if you're not paying for YouTube Premium, you're watching a.
Oh
If,
no, I'm talking about the creator side. So yeah, you're talking about the consumption side.
yeah, I'm
I'm
talking
talking
about
about the creator side.
yeah,
So yeah, you're not gonna, even if you publish content to their platform, they're gonna run probably even mid-roll ads
yeah.
against your content, even though you as a creator are not part of the
Right,
monetization program.
right.
Yeah,
On YouTube. Oh, 100%.
yeah,
That's how they pay for the ability to use that platform for free.
mm-hmm.
They monetize around your content for the majority of the folks that
Yeah,
never reached the minimum watch hours to
yep,
be
yeah. So you
monetized.
have to keep grinding to get those numbers before they
Yeah,
they
cut
let
you.
you make any money, right?
Yeah, and of
Yeah,
course, Spotify numbers are so high that my God, 10,000 hours a month or something like that.
yeah. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah,
I mean, if they're going to compete with YouTube and get content that would go to YouTube, they need to compete, which
that's
means that they
expensive
need to have
to
the
You know,
same
it's a lot of
program.
work to sell advertising into videos. So they
Well, it's
they
all automated. So, right. It's
uh,
all,
I think a lot. You look at a lot of YouTube stuff that goes in. Yeah, of course, I don't see ads no more because I can't pay for premium. I just hear the baked in stuff from the creators. So I guess that's true.
well,
Um,
there's programmatic video buying
yeah,
platforms that
yeah,
exist out there that have existed for a long time for streaming television.
yeah.
So
It's just it
I'm
just
sure that's what's being done
yeah,
here.
just
Yeah.
programmatic. They just drop whatever ads available or
Yeah,
whatever they.
it's called let's see, the dynamic ads in Spotify for both audio and video are inserted in real time
Yeah,
using Spotify's proprietary streaming ad insertion
yeah,
technology.
yeah,
They're SAI.
yeah.
It says the ads are this ensures that the ads are only served when the user reaches the ad slot,
So one thing.
approving, targeting, and all that stuff.
So one thing's for sure, it's more about lock in and more about do it our way, and not supporting. Again, I think my recommendation still stands. Have two shows, one audio, one video.
Yeah. Well, you know, it, that's what we've been doing for years, right? With RSS.
That's right.
So it's just another lack of integration of the two, right? So, yeah.
But it really doesn't address Brian's recommendation or our recommendation. They just doubled down.
I think they're going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I
it
don't think that,
also also said in the article uh, that Spotify is positioning video podcasts as a major growth engine, highlighting the 270 million users already engaging in video on the platform.
well,
270 million.
we've already seen the reports that the engagement doesn't mean more dollars. We've already covered that people that have audio are losing money when they're putting video on top of their audio. Their revenue's going down.
Yeah.
So may have the engaging audience, but it surely is not paying.
Yeah. They're really, I mean, it's either one of two things. They either want to disrupt RSS or they didn't think about the ramifications of their strategy here.
Well, I had discussions with them, and them wanting us to implement the API to be able to send video over, and we said no because of this exact discussion point, and they are hell bent on going the course with with what they have. So
Yeah.
they made it a business decision. This is what they're going to do. And I think anyone that is thinks otherwise may be in for a surprise. Um, so I guess, we and Brian and others, Sounds Profitable, been spreading the alarm, but they have not, you know, look at the company reach that Sounds Profitable has, how many companies they're working with. And for them to basically tell their members, hey, you're getting screwed. Don't publish your video on YouTube on top of your audio. That's a pretty strong statement. That's
Yeah, and
the,
James Cridland's been saying the same thing too.
yeah. So and so what you have is the industry, or as Adam kindly refers to it as the podcast industrial complex, have made their stand and said this is bad, and Spotify's basically said screw you, this is the way it's going to be, and that's fine. So people know the playing field. Now they have to make a business decision on which way they're going to roll.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, I know which way I'm going to roll, and that's not rolling with Spotify. That's for sure.
I don't know why they felt like they had to do this practice of stripping the audio out of the video, to have it a separate thing. I mean, especially if that show is already in their catalog via RSS.
Ease of
Why not
publishing.
just leave it alone? Just leave it alone.
Well,
That's all they have to do.
They want one-step publishing. They want you to publish the video, and we'll take care of the rest. That they're making it as a convenience to the podcaster that doesn't have a clue. Because video first people don't care about the audio unless they've gotten dialed in.
But it comes across as not realizing even their own infrastructure. It's almost like an engineer decided, well, we might as well just do this.
Yeah,
it's easier.
It's easier. I am
Right.
I am absolutely convinced that's the case.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, without regard to, all you have to do is just block the audio from replacing the RSS feed
Right.
audio. That's all you have to do. It's not really any more complicated than that.
Yeah.
It's fine if they want to strip the audio out of the video and put that out as a MP3 file to external RSS. That's fine. I mean, if that's what the content creator is okay with, then they'll enable that.
How
But
about an
to-
A/B option? Yeah.
Right. Just a choice, right?
Mhm.
Or I can upload my own audio version. So, this whole thing that Spotify wants to decide that your audio from your video is going to be your show, I think is either was done with, less than stellar intentions here, or it was just done because it was easier, which isn't a very good excuse.
Right.
So, yeah. So anyway.
Well, and at the same time, they're jumping in on audiobooks, so they've invested some money there, and
Yeah.
at the same time, Acast is signing some former Spotify exclusive shows. So, so people continue to shift around here and there. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, did you see the Nielsen stats that showed up in the Pod News report today that was gauging total TV and streaming snapshot?
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
Yeah. And it's showing that YouTube is just dominating.
Oh, I have no doubt.
Yeah. So it says for March 2025, YouTube is at the top of the list for
Wasn't
consumption.
there something else higher than that in YouTube? Wasn't there a? Let me go to the.
No, it's the biggest one.
Oh, yeah.
12%.
12%.
The next closest one is Netflix at 7.9.
Yeah, and then other streaming 6.1, whatever that means. 5%
Yeah.
Disney, 3.5% Prime Video,
Other is probably the OTT apps out
But
there
it's
that are
surprising though they say that broadcast is still 20.5. I just find it hard to fathom. 24% still cable and 11.7% is other. What is other in TV? You got broadcast, cable, and streaming. What is other? Um,
other probably would be other kind of smaller tier OTT apps, probably.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But
There's a bunch of those
what's
out there.
interesting here is that I would bet if I was a gambling man, the cable industry is still heavy reliant on sports because it's still not always clear where to get a sports program if you because they move around. The NFL sold so many, the NBA sold so many episodes to or so many games to one network, and so they're either on Fox Sports or they're on ESPN or wherever they may be broadcast, and then trying to find the live stream of those sports is can be challenging. So I'm assuming because sports is so heavily tied in broadcasts that a lot of people still have cable subscriptions is largely because of sports. Now, what's funny
Well,
here,
what's the difference between broadcast and cable now?
well, broadcast is supposed to be, your rabbit ears on your TV. That's my assumption. But
I thought everybody was getting it through a cable box now, pretty much.
well, there's no cable where I live, but I can still get television stations by
Okay,
putting in.
so
But
20%
again,
of the people are getting over the air
I
television
would be
still?
shocked. I would be shocked.
Hmm.
That to me seems like a high number. I get what 4 channels over the
I know,
air.
that's what I was gonna say. The number of channels is extremely low, right?
And sometimes it doesn't even work. It depends
Yeah.
on how much foliage
Depends
is on
on
the
the
trees.
yeah, it depends on the direction of the antenna and all
Yeah,
that stuff. I know
you know,
I've done it before. I know how much of a struggle it is, and
yeah,
I know
it's
RVs have TV antennas on top of them that have like a little crank that you crank
yeah.
in
Well,
order to get the TV signal to match up with it.
the older ones do, the new ones don't.
Yeah,
You know
I had
that
a I had a pretty new one too, and it still had a little crank on it that you had to crank it.
a lot
Yeah.
of them now just have a Starlink adapter.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But,
But that's a different kind of that's like taking you into the streaming side.
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's just interesting how cable and broadcast are holding on.
Yeah.
If you combine them together, it's based on this Nielsen study, it's what, 44.5%. So it's
Uh,
the biggest chunk.
Yeah, well, if you think about it too, where I live, Dish is the only thing you can get if you want, maybe that's what they're considering broadcast is Dish and those because where I live, that's it. There's no
Yeah,
cable, so you have to have Dish. So maybe they consider that broadcast.
could be.
Yeah,
Could be.
I would assume where that's come because I can't imagine people are using rabbit ears very much. But people don't even what the hell are you talking about rabbit ears?
Yeah, and your signal sucks too
Yeah.
on that.
But if you look
So
at it at 44% for broadcasting cable and 43, it's almost even Steven here.
yeah, which is also a shock. Yeah.
I don't think so
So
because my
you don't think
kids
so?
are
There's still that many people that are still living in a different time.
well, if you think about the percentage of people that live in rural America, that's the only option they have.
Yeah,
So if we
true.
ask, what is the percentage? What is the percentage of people in? Oh my God, I can't type this morning. Of rural America. I think it's 12 or 13%, something like that. 20%. So live in defined rural areas. So that makes sense. If you have a number that's in the report that's what 24%, um, that accounts for all those rural subscribers that are on a
Yeah.
broadcast, almost exactly 20%, 20%. But I don't think all my neighbors have. Well, I think about it. I think about driving down my road that I live on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, almost everyone has a dish from Dish Network.
Yeah. So that must be, I just don't know if they're lumping that in under cable or they're under
Has
broadcast, right?
cable's cable.
Yeah.
So, and if you have cable, then you have cable internet. So
Yeah. Right.
then,
That's the
then
others.
that number, then that streaming number, those that have cable then can have. So I would venture that there's a portion of people that are on cable that are also, part of that YouTube streaming and Netflix. It has to be. Well, we do it. I do it
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Except I have IPTV here. I get every channel in the known universe through some, and God knows where they originates, but in America it's here I'm sure it's illegal too, but everyone has IPTV.
Todd, have you noticed just an explosion, or is it just my perception of all the podcast awards?
Yeah, there's a
You,
lot.
it's it's really blown up
Yeah,
in the
there's a whole bunch.
last 2 years. I mean, a lot of them are happening now over in Europe, which is adding to it, and up in Canada and Australia, and so it's getting scattered all over the country,
Yeah,
all over the world.
yeah.
So, but it's just remarkable how many there are. There, just in Pod News from the 14th,
Yeah.
there's I think mentioned of at least two or three awards.
It's funny. I've recently had some more offers on podcast awards. People wanting to buy it,
Oh,
and I just put a ridiculous number on it.
that'll keep them away, won't it?
Well, it's a valid number.
Yeah,
If you look at from an acquisition standpoint, yeah, here's the number.
right.
You want it, write the check. And the problem with it though is I'm going to pay full tax on that. It'll be, of course, it's a bad problem to have, right? When you have to pay tax.
I know. I guess so.
I just got done with my writing the check to the IRS and sending it on the 14th.
Oh, you did.
Ah,
All right.
God.
Yeah, no fun.
Yeah. And I look at the number and I'm thinking, God, if I could just have 10% of that back.
Yeah,
Yeah, uh, or 25% of it back.
it'd be nice to get a tax relief here, right?
I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, from what I'm starting to learn that taxation in this country isn't really needed.
Well,
Depends on how you look at the monetary system. Because,
they got to tax something. It's, here's the thing, it's completely non-podcast related, but if they could just eliminate property tax nationwide, if there was no property tax nationwide, that means when you are getting older, and I look at the property tax that my sister, my mom, I pay, and I'm thinking,
well, especially for retired people or older people, after a certain age, that just doesn't make sense.
the property tax just that my sister pays. I don't know how they would keep the house. They planned well for retirement, so they're going to be fine. But I'm just thinking, how do you afford
Yeah.
$12,000, $14,000, $15,000 a year in property tax?
Yeah.
on a property you own outright in retirement if you have a
Right. Well, that's the problem, right?
yeah.
So, plus, for, I'm starting to learn from some economists that are saying that based on the monetary system that we have in this country, the government, when we pay money to the government, they just destroy that money because it just the Federal Reserve makes money.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
That's the problem with it. That's how
I mean,
that
you're
you're
not really giving the government money. They already have the money.
yeah.
They loan that money to us. All we're
Right.
doing is paying it back.
Yeah.
So, right? I mean, it's all based on debt. The whole thing is
Yeah.
based on debt.
Yeah.
And I'm also hearing that that U.S. government debt clock that's out there, that
Yeah.
36 trillion, that's actually a count of how much money that the federal government has put into the economy of the U.S.
That's been bought up by other people as part of the debt.
Right. That's how much has been put
Yeah.
in as a
Yeah.
loan
Yeah.
to all of
Yeah.
to the economies of the world
Mm,
and the American people.
yeah.
And so when we pay taxes, we're actually paying back the government
Yeah.
on the loan that they gave us.
That's right.
So, I think all of us have this perception of what our money is, and it's not what we are being
Yeah,
told it is,
that's why people are big into gold and silver.
right? It's all funny money.
Yeah.
It doesn't really have any inherent value to it.
Yeah. That's why, inflation's such a it's brutal. I look at my military retirement
Well,
and
inflation is a real thing because
oh
the more
yeah.
money the government makes to
Yeah.
put into the system, as that supposed debt clock number goes up,
Yeah.
that's an indication of inflation is what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
So,
And
but anyway,
I just look at how, you know, and when I retired, it's pretty nice number. That was in
yeah, right.
2007, now.
Yay, 40 trillion
Yeah,
in
no.
debt means that there's more money out here for us,
Well, that
right?
means
Yeah.
there's less value for my retirement.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. Your buying power drops, but there's more
Yeah.
money for everybody to have.
Yeah,
Right?
we go to the grocery store and where'd that $400 go?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's hard to go to the grocery store and not spend $200 now.
Oh,
Right.
that's the min.
Yeah,
That
right.
was that it used to be you go to Costco, spend 400. Now you go to Costco and spend 8. And you go to the grocery store
I
and
try
spend
not to do that,
you
but
go to
that's all right.
2.
That's just me.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
me neither.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I
Uh,
used to, a couple of years ago, I used to walk out of Costco and think, wow, I made it out of here for only $100.
wow, how did you do that? Did you go in
Yeah,
there
I
with
know
a full
exactly.
stomach?
Yeah, right. Right. But back in those days, it was reasonable. I started shopping at Costco back in 1988.
Uh,
So that's
and
how long I've been doing it.
in Hawaii, we had to have Costco, otherwise we wouldn't survive just because
You
of the
wouldn't have survived.
no,
Okay.
we wouldn't. Honestly, we would have starved.
Yeah.
See what else has happened the last week here. Oh
Yeah, I
yeah,
just keep seeing these new tools coming out like PodPace. Did you see this
no
podcast speech normalization tool now that was launched?
pod paste.
PodPace, PACE.
Oh,
PodPace.
and it's an audio normalization tool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Upload your audio file. It analyzes the speaker and uses assembly AI to normalize the audio, I guess.
So what does that
So
cost a month?
it doesn't say. Let's see here. Doesn't look like it's. It doesn't look like it has a fee. It looks like
Well,
it's a free thing.
we'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah, and it's a bunch of downloadable code files,
Oh,
JSON files, and yeah, it's really usable for everyday podcasters.
oh, okay. Yeah, that's being sarcastic here.
Yeah, right.
Uh,
Yes, build your own normalization tool on your
oh,
computer.
oh,
That's kind
for
of
the
what
super
it,
geeks out there.
right. That there's so many of them.
Just remember,
So
Podpace. Most podcasters, some don't know what the right click button on the mouse is.
Yeah, we've been fighting that one for years. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
that's
So,
interesting.
yeah. So I don't know. There's not, you know, I don't know, Todd. I mean, be honest about it. Is there a lot of stuff going on in podcasting, or are we kind of in
It's pretty quiet
the
right now.
the, the doldrums to some degree?
Yeah, we've been head down pretty hard on trying to get Guest Match Pro launched.
Yeah.
At least in the beta. So I got that's what my team's focused on, and then we've got
I'm,
another project we're gonna start on soon that's big.
yeah, I did a call with the Podcastle folks. Um, I don't know if you're familiar with
A
that
little
platform,
bit,
but
a
it's a
little bit.
platform out of Europe, and I guess they've built a complete publishing, editing, um, kind of creation tool. It's kind of a one stop shop for creating a podcast, right?
Mm.
Kind of like what the Notebook LLM is trying to do, right? But um, the piece that I learned is that they don't have any metrics that are connected to this. It'll create your RSS feed. It'll do all the AI stuff for it. It'll get it into an RSS feed. It'll get it into all of the platforms, all the listening platforms. But the piece that's missing in their platform is any kind of metrics. So there's no counting of plays or downloads or anything in the platform.
Hmm.
So let alone IAB metrics.
Right, right.
So yeah, so we're still in this age of incomplete platforms, right? That can't do it all in one place. And is that where we're going to wind up, Todd? What's your thought? Are we going to have a handful of platforms that are going to integrate all these AI functions and tools into one publishing work stream?
We are.
It's just when are we going to see it, and who do we think is going to build it?
Well, we're probably 85% of the way there already.
Yeah. So I think
Again, but
that's the
again,
big
there's more.
question.
There's more. There's podcasters need more than publishing and production tools. They need the
Well,
social piece, the social
they need
promotion.
marketing, they need all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to think about the monetization parts too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pieces to bolt together to come up with something, but I'm increasingly thinking that the agentic movements in the AI world are going to make that possible like we've never seen before. But
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't I don't know if it's going to be put together with agentic capabilities, but I'm sure there'll be some element of it in a platform that does all this stuff. Because that assumes separate components that do separate things, right?
We built uh, part of our matching algorithm
Hmm.
for Guest Match Pro uses AI. So, we leveraging that to do something that would have been ordinarily something very complex, and it not so complex when
Yeah.
you can do stuff through an API call. So
Yeah, I just wonder if there's platforms right now that you can get access to that you can manually assemble a workflow, right, of
yeah,
a AI by plugging in components that will do various things and then passing data from one component to another component to another component, and it gives you an output, right? So I guess what we're probably building here is like what you're building, which is kind of like a one-stop shop kind of
yep,
experience, but the user itself of the platform doesn't realize that it's using agentic tools or agentic type workflows. All they see is the input and then the output.
yeah. It's simple things sometimes too. Is
Yeah.
something that you and I consider really, really simple for a new
Hmm.
podcaster can be a roadblock. And
Yeah.
we're building something right now that we've learned is hindering as we've watched, using Hotjar and different things on the website. We've in watching new podcasters come into the platform, we see stuff that they should do, but they don't do. which then ultimately ends up being maybe a deterrent to them getting to episode one.
Hmm.
So, we're building stuff to really completely lower the barrier 100% to getting them to it, to that first episode and
Hmm.
flowing them through. Um, it's we didn't have to do this 10 years ago, but now we have to, provide. I don't want to call them baby steps, but it's a checklist of sense that allows them. Okay, I've done this. Now I got to do that. You got to do this. Got to do that. Okay, I'm ready. 4 or 5, and it's not that many steps. Just a few
Hmm.
steps of critical things, and then those situations where, um, as an example, do you need help in creating the description for your show?
Yeah.
And if it says yes, then I can open a query box and I can say, type in, what you think your show's going to be about, and we'll help you create a description. And what categories. Another thing is, what category should my podcast be in?
Hmm.
And people go, oh, I don't know what. I said, well, you can pick 3. So here's the 3 suggestions based upon the
Yeah.
description, and just
Yeah.
kind of stepping people through, and giving the option to manually set it, of course, but taking, because they don't understand why they need to set a category. Only we know they
Yeah.
have to, for them to be, properly placed in Apple Podcasts. And, the other things that need to be in there so that when they're ready to submit and, produce their episode 0, they're ready to go.
Yeah.
And that way it reduces the support calls. And because the challenge is not the existing podcasters that are creating content. The challenge on my end is the new podcasters, and educating the existing podcasters on, hey, by the way, we've got this tool you can
Mhm.
use. And I think what happens too is podcasters get in a production flow that they're very comfortable with. Whatever they learned the first time, if they're using Hindenburg or they're using Descript or they're using Adobe Edition or whatever they're using from a tool standpoint, when you come in and say, hey, we can save you time here by using this tool, people they're they're used to doing it in their workflow. So getting people to consider a new workflow is very, very difficult unless you train them from the very beginning to do this workflow.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
hope that you know the the creators will come in and say, okay, what you're doing here is going to help me how, and that really is the you know what is the why should I use this, what is the benefit, the why and the what.
Yeah.
But
That's true.
totally, it's still in this, in my opinion, we're still in a situation where getting, if I could get, well, it's just 50% of podcasters never get to episode 1.
Right. Yeah.
They,
That's true.
they don't even just get to, they say, I want to do a podcast, and they sign up, and then, we're watching, we have a dashboard that tells us all these new shows that are on 30-day trials. And sometimes they add their billing and then it's month 2 and they still haven't done episode 1. And we're like, hey, and with this new law out, there's a new law out that basically says you have to tell your podcast subscriber, hey, in 7 days we're going to hit your credit card. Now we were doing that already for people that were brand new, but now this new law requires
Yeah.
you to send an email on a reoccurring charge that says, hey, we're going to hit your credit card in 7 days. You're going, and if you don't want to have us do that, here's the cancel button. They made that, the FCC or one of those groups made that mandatory for big fines if you don't, because people have difficulty finding the cancel button, and companies have made it hard. So the FCC came in and said, okay, you that are collecting a reoccurring payment,
Yeah.
by law, you have to inform them that you're going to hit their credit card in 3 days or whatever the number may be,
Yeah.
to give them ample opportunity to cancel.
Right.
And companies that
Do you,
don't do that are subject to big, 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 big fines.
you want me to pull up a deep fake video that's a good contrast between what is real and what's fake?
Sure.
Pull it up. Let's see here. Let's see here. How did I share? Okay, here it is. Share sound.
I would like to welcome you to the era of synthetic reality. Now, I am not Morgan Freeman, and what you see is not real. Well, at least in contemporary terms, it is not. What if I were to tell you that I am not even a human being? Would you believe me? What is your perception of reality? Is it the ability to capture, process, and make sense of the information our senses receive? If you can see, hear, taste, or smell something, does that make it real? Or is it simply the ability to feel? I would like to welcome you to the era of synthetic reality. Now, I am not Morgan Freeman. What you see is...
So then what if Morgan Freeman doesn't like that?
Yeah.
They've used his likeness. What happens next if Morgan says, hey, I don't want my likeness being used, even if they've disclosed I am not real? This is a virtual synthetic.
Yeah.
That's pretty convincing.
Yeah, well, even this is probably not something that Morgan would approve of.
Right. But
even though it's clear that it's a deep
yeah,
fake.
so I'm saying, how does he have that taken down?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Or does he care?
See.
I would think he would care.
Where we get into this gray area is that he's considered a public figure, right?
Well,
So,
still, you're using his
yeah.
likeness and his voice.
Yeah,
And
you are. Right. Right.
So
So
therein
we're
lies
kind
the
of straying
challenge.
into kind of new territory here.
Oh.
And I guess this capability's been around for a while.
It's just getting better.
It's getting to a point where you can't really tell anymore.
Yeah. I would have probably I wouldn't have been able to tell on that one. That one was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So at what point then does I just show up and do the podcast and people not know that I'm some agent doing the show?
Yeah, right.
It's
No, I think there's a good chance that we'll get there, Todd.
Oh, I think so, for sure.
I mean, I don't see any roadblocks to
So
getting away with it.
then I can create content 5 days a week and sip margaritas.
Well, the question gets back to is whether or not people are going to use AI to create the transcript that is then used in the video.
Oh, I'm sure.
So even our words aren't even ours.
Right. Oh, they're already doing that. I know of a guy that's doing a show. It's an audio podcast. It's completely created by AI, 100%, end to end, and it's a news summary show.
Yeah. So every word that he says probably comes out
It's
of
not even
an AI generated transcript that he then pastes into a video
into an engine.
clone of himself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And it's not
And
even
an
a clone
audio
of himself. He's not even using his own voice.
Yeah. It's an AI clone voice and AI clone video, just
or
like
you
this
go to
one.
11 Labs and you license a voice. I know people that have submitted voices to 11 Labs, and you pay to license the voice by the minute.
Yeah.
I have a good friend. It's a very loyal Blueberry customer that his voice is available on 11 Labs, and the man has some chops. He's got a voice that's made for radio, made for podcasting. a deep,
Hmm.
garbling voice. It's just like,
Yes.
yeah,
Like the movie trailer voice.
yeah.
Right.
Or you can just think about, some iconic radio people, Howard Stern, or, um, folks that were just, world
Yeah.
renowned.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, their voices are available. Now, Howard Stern's probably not going to make his voice available, but what happens to people that are dead, um,
Right.
voices
Right.
that are being used? That's
Yeah.
already an issue.
Yeah. There's
And then
there's
again,
a lot of past.
we can say at the beginning, "Hey, I'm real," but what if I say, "Hey, I'm real," have the AI say, "Hey, I'm real"? Then you can cheat disclosure. "Oh, I'm real,"
Hmm.
and if it's just like, what do we have on this show? We have 600 plus episodes. That's about nine. How many hours is that? That's probably about 900 hours of content. I'm very certain if we took those 900 hours, they would completely learn our mannerisms, our preferences, and I would have no doubt that we could create this show in the coming couple of years completely with an AI tool.
You know, one thing that I've noticed with some of the AI platforms that I've talked to that are doing the voice cloning is that when they started doing voice cloning, this was a few years ago, they were requiring people, and I remember Descript required this too in the early years, where you had to like voice an extensive script and go through like 4 or 5 different versions of it and tell a story, and that's what created the voice clone
Yeah.
was these deep training data that we were giving
Right.
it through giving them a recording. Well, I've noticed that the more modern ones, like the script and this one that I talked to just the other day, that Podcastle is taking like a 5-second audio clip. And that's what they're using to generate your voice. So it's
That
like
seems pretty narrow.
I but it's like this focus on trying to make it faster to get it
Yeah, yeah,
done,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Less of a hurdle to get it done. But my comment to them was is that, well, what's the quality of the output?
yeah.
Sure, you're helping, but their comment back was, well, we only need 15 seconds of your audio in order to do this. And I'm like going, well, how does it know how to do all your accurate voice inflections and
Yeah.
your emotions and your
It doesn't.
pauses? I, I mean, is it just making it up or
I think it's just, I think I destroyed the English language enough that if I had a perfect show, it's like this morning, I've had to mute myself a dozen times here this morning because of congestion and, I'm graveling my voice and, and no one
yeah,
wants to hear that. So it's how do, if your voice is perfect every day, we all get colds. We all, we have morning voice, nighttime voice. And it all depends. I got on the headset this morning before you got on. I'm like, oh my God, I sound horrible. I started reaching over to adjust the the tuning of and I'm like, no, I just need to drink more water, and
right.
just because my voice is, full
Yeah,
of
it does
full of
does
yuck.
raise right. It does raise a lot of questions around, this concept of training data. I've been
Yeah,
thinking a lot more about this lately and I think, as I think about, like Tesla or whatever, my car getting better and better in driving based on
training
video
data.
training data,
Yeah,
right? That it gets from my car and millions of other cars. But I was starting to think about this at a different level too. I don't know that you want to give the AI. y- Okay, let's say you want the car to drive as safely as possible, right?
mm-hmm.
If you give it a bunch of training data that tells it that it's okay to, do things that are not legal, right, in the training data, then it's going to think that's what it needs to replicate. So, so that's what kind of pushes this issue around only giving the AI training data that is perfect, right? Or tells it that this is the right way to react to something or the right interpretation of something versus giving it everything and it knowing all the flaws and the errors, right?
Well, you
Because
just heard what OpenAI did. They made it so it can remember the conversations you've had with it.
yeah,
And now, as a matter of fact, the first prompt it said is, you know, tell me what you know about me. And kind of
right.
scary on
Oh,
that
I've done
output.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've I've done that test many times.
But
But it's just
just do it now when they've just switched the memory on.
yeah.
And
But it does really make you question, the quality in, quality out thing, right?
oh yeah.
I mean, if it's learning how to think about you as a person, you probably don't want to give it all the negative things about you. You only want to give it the positive things,
Of
right?
course.
Or you want to give it the safe way to drive. If you're a car and an AI that's driving a car, you want the car to know how to drive safely, not, you know,
So
unsafely.
here's one that'll mess your mind up. All right. So this thing's getting smarter. Yeah, some people will argue with me on that, but it's learning a logarithm. Let's just use it that way. It's learning our patterns of speech and writing and
Right.
questions that we've asked and everything. So are we not? Are we agents already? Are we in the matrix? Are we really here right now?
Well, well, I think that the same concept of our existence is exactly that.
Yeah.
Each one of us operates autonomously,
Yeah.
right? And we connect with other things,
Yeah.
right? We transfer information from one place to another. That's the exact definition of
Yeah.
what an AI agent is.
So,
Is that it?
I just hope the AI agent makes me a lot of money. I hope it makes me, figures out a way to make like $1 million a year and I can retire.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing that I can't really get my head around is that, how is AI going to be any better than us when it's
Oh, I don't
only
think
been trained on us?
the only thing it's going to get better at. So, for
Yeah, but it must
example,
get other
well,
other input.
well, you think
It's
about is the speed. So let's just break it down
oh,
into,
speed is a different.
let's think
Yeah,
about the science piece and, talk about looking for cures for cancer. Now they can run instead of, it takes so long to build profiles. Now
right.
they can have this thing building profiles and, running 24/7. And they have all this additional data. They got the DNA, they've got da. So I think what will happen is the breakthroughs will come from the ability of the AI to be faster. Now, how does that affect us? If it's truly agentic, what I could say is, hey, keep your eye on the United prices going to Heathrow, and
Yeah,
predict, when the
yeah,
lowest price is, and then buy that ticket.
right.
So it could save us money. It could, or it could end up putting us in first class and spending $10,000 on a seat that we didn't want. So you
Right,
never
right.
know how this is going to
Depends
work.
on what that priority is, right?
Yeah.
Is it comfort? Is it being able to sleep?
But if
Is it
all of us are using
right?
that same tools, then the playing field is leveled, and then it's again you're all competing for that one ticket that's 10% less or whatever it may be. So I, I don't know. We'll see. It's untold frontier here, and on the creator side, it's pretty exciting. But at the same time, I still go back to my hypothesis here that people are going to be seeking out original voices. Maybe not. Maybe the AI voices will get so good that, they won't want to hear Todd and Rob banter about economic reform, what we did just a few minutes ago. That 5-minute segment would be gone.
Well, if the AI gets better, right, than us, if it's smarter about what's happening in podcasting and it knows more about what's happening in podcasting than we could ever comprehend, and if it doesn't make any voice mistakes and the audio is always perfect and the video is great and
But the
people get value out of it,
but
then
won't
why wouldn't people
but,
watch
but
it?
would the reporting be? But the thing is, at what point? Okay, so if we're just going to say, as an example, Android App Antenna Pod version 3.80 has been released. Among some new features are you can leave comments at so basically you can report
Yeah.
on that. Now,
Yeah, it's like a news product.
but
It's kind of like what you do with
right.
Geek News Central.
But
right.
but what I will do, and again, I'm just using this as an example, so Antenna Pod, I'm not picking on you. I could say, well, that update sucks. Will the AI say that? Probably not. Will it be able to form an opinion? Will it be able to have an argument like we have sometimes on things here, where I play devil's advocate, or is that gonna come into the mix? Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a
Maybe.
weighting scale. Maybe in the weighting scale is okay for 10% of the show, allow one of the hosts to play devil advocate, and it will, pick an opposing side to a topic. Maybe it will play against each other. But then again, do we cease to be humans anymore? Do we cease to be creators and creative and just allow some machine to do something? It's kind of scary.
Yeah. And I do kind of wonder about, the whole thing. I don't know if you use the spoken word version of OpenAI Chat GPT, where you can have a conversation with the
Yeah,
AI.
I've used it before.
Where you'll ask it a question and it always says, "That's a great question. Thank you for asking that." Right.
Yeah.
And it's always so appreciative of everything when you're like going, I asked you a very serious question.
Yeah,
And you were
yeah.
like going, "That's a great question. Thank you for that."
Well,
And
that's
I'm like going, I just challenged your intelligence.
well, this is the challenge we had in the AI in writing the emails for the show summary. The
Yeah.
challenges I had was that, oh, this was a great episode. You need to tune in. It had
Yeah.
all these
Right.
accolades, and I'm like, this audience. So what we had to train, and it was very difficult. It was the hardest prompt I wrote, was to get that stupidity out.
Yeah.
Remove the accolades, remove the flowery language, just give the information. The audience already knows this podcast. They already have a relationship with the host. You do not need to
Praise them.
Yeah, oh my, this is the best episode ever. Don't do
Yeah.
that. It may have been the
Yeah.
worst.
Yeah. Right. You don't want to overplay something that could have been bad,
Right,
right? It's not
right.
like you don't want to make like an AstroTurf
If
scenario.
it was a great episode, I'm gonna add to the email. This is a great episode. You
Right.
need to tune in.
Right.
Or this episode kind of sucked. I've done that before.
When
I wasn't feeling good.
Where's the sarcasm when you need it? Right?
Well,
Yeah.
give them a few years. Maybe they'll figure out the sarcasm. Who knows?
But that comes from actual learning real human training data too.
Yeah.
But if we're only feeding it, the accolades and the positive and the that was a great question, no matter
Yeah.
what you ask it,
Right.
right? Then it kind of loses a little credibility, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it does.
A little bit in people's perception.
It's just like clickbait on YouTube. I get so pissed off about the clickbait. I'm quitting. This is the last episode of this. Or,
it's the end.
yeah, and then you turn on it, it's the end of washing the dog, or, it has
right.
nothing to do with the end of a channel, so.
Right. Do you need to quit now? Yes.
Yeah. So, the clickbait
So-
on YouTube is out of hand. Rob, we made it to the bottom of the hour, even with our technical difficulties today.
Okay. All right.
I will send you a master file to replace the silenced audio. So
Okay.
I have
We can
editing to do.
edit it down a little bit. That'd be great.
Yeah, it sucks to edit.
Oh yeah.
So
it
anyway, you
does.
guys have heard this live, or heard we listened to this via podcast delivery. Yeah, there was a big blooper today, so you didn't hear it.
Flaws and all.
Yeah.
So it wasn't AI. So you can count on that.
Yeah. Yeah. The roadcaster decided to just, it's kind of amazing. It's like I got all this stuff that's supposed to work, and then
Yeah.
roadcaster just disconnects. I'm like, what the?
Wow.
What? And I had reset it. I had turned it off, turned it back on, thought I was good.
Wow.
It's just one of these things. Nothing is. It seems like nothing's. I guess I truly love my studio in Michigan because everything is wired. But then the problem is the wires get scratchy, and then I have scratchy voice. So it's a whole different
Yeah.
set of issues.
Sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun to turn the system back on from cold iron when I go back in about 3 weeks. Yeah,
Okay. So you'll be back. That's right, in May.
May
Okay.
11th I fly out just before
Okay.
the podcast show in London.
Oh, that's right. You're flying to London.
Yeah, I got my airline ticket, and company didn't
So
pay for
we'll-
it, but I paid for my own upgrade, so out of my own money because I don't want to sit and coach.
So yeah. So you say May 11th is when you get to London?
No, May 11th is when I leave here.
You leave there.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that would be on a Sunday, on Mother's Day. I get home on the 11th, but I'm really not. I won't be on the train on the 12th. So we'll be able to do the show on the 14th. Normal time on the 14th.
I thought that they. Okay, so you're not going straight to.
No,
London.
I'm going back to America first.
Oh, you are.
The
Okay.
cost to fly from here, I was going to just leave from here and go to London, but
Yeah.
the cost didn't make sense. It's cheaper for me to fly home and then fly to London.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. The
Wow.
routing out of here takes you through Doha, and there's only a few routes, and it's very expensive with Qatar or somebody like that. Yeah. And if
Okay.
I wanted to fly United out of here, they still take me to San Francisco. Then they take me to London. So,
Oh, that's a long flight from San Francisco
well, it's,
to London.
yeah. And it's a long flight from here to San Francisco. So I figured have a week in between, and plus I'm going to be suitcasing stuff to London. If you're
Got it.
going to London, by the way, and you're from America, they have new entry requirements. You have to get something else. I think it's what do they call it? See if I
Is it a
can.
visa?
It's
to
not
get
a
a
visa. It's a. Where did I put it? That's not in that email. Here. Yeah, there's a word for it. So if you're from America, and there's a number of countries, let's see here. It's called ETA. It's an ETA application. And once you get it, it's good for 2 years.
Hmm.
So, yeah, you have to have an approved ETA, and you get a number.
Was it like a TSA type of thing?
Some sort of clearance, and it's good as long as your passport number doesn't change.
Oh, right.
I've drank nearly a whole bottle of water here. All right. So anyway, if you're going to London, make sure you get your ETA before you go. That's changed from last year. Last year, you just show up with your passport, the United States, and smile at the camera and walk through the gate. So,
Where do you get that from?
it's on a UK website. Yeah, I have to. Anyway,
yes.
just search for ETA UK, and it's on the gov.uk website. They say 2 to 3 days. Mine was 2 to 3 minutes.
Oh,
It
wow, that's
approved
good.
almost instantly. It is a pain. They have an app, and the biggest pain is the app is scanning. You got to scan a bunch of stuff, and then you have to find your eSIM in your passport. And if you've got a new one, the instructions is wrong. If you have a new passport, the eSIM is on the hard page of your it's on the hard page of your passport picture. So
Okay.
I don't know if you've got one of those new passports or not, Rob, but they've got the second page is hard as a rock. It's almost like
I know.
a laminated page.
Yeah. I mean, I've got one like that. It also has like an IR chip in it
Yeah,
too.
yeah. The older passports, the eSIM is on the back page of the passport. So the app tells you to scan the back page. Well, in the new passports, it's not. It's on the second page, on the
Got it.
hard bar. So
Okay.
anyway, Todd at blueberry.com, at Geek News on X, at geeknews.chat on Mastodon.
Yeah, I'm at rob.greenlee@gmail.com. It's a great place to reach out to me. And I'm on X and Facebook and YouTube under my name. So you can find me over there pretty easily. So it's been great to do the show, Todd.
Yep.
We'll be back next week, I assume.
Yep. Next week, same time, same channel. All right, everyone.
Okay.
Take care. We'll see you next
All
time
right.
here. All right.